Mark, how are we? Apologize for being late. Our last guest ran a little bit over. How's life?
No, I figured that's what it was. All good. Life is good. Yeah. So I'm ready to go whenever you are. I've seen the list of questions, but like we discussed, I could have done it without them. It's fine. And
Mark, you're a comic at
wherever
heart,
you
right?
go will be fine,
You
right?
could
So
you could
yeah.
you could weave through the conversation. I'm looking forward to the callbacks. We make
Oh my
sure that there's
God,
like
no pressure.
there's topic areas and it's not topic questions, so that the conversation flows fluidly. Look, if there's
Lovely.
anywhere that I'm gonna start, it's gonna be with Runner.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
good.
talk to me. Why did you make the early bet? Obviously, in hindsight, selling to Strava is amazing. Um, I don't know how much you can talk about that, but I really want to go back to the start, which is very much met the founders, or you got introduced to the founders. How did you find them? Why was the bet taken at that early check?
Yeah. So I was introduced to a founder by an existing founder who's like, I run all the time. Like this is the only bit of software that I've ever stuck with, and I really like the founder. You should go meet them. And I was skeptical, right? Because it felt like it was something that ought to have been done before, right? Like it's the whole thing where if it's too obvious, normally it's a bad idea, right? It's kind of a yeah, that's a common thing. So I wasn't really that excited, but I was like, I have a process, go do my got introduced, go do my video pitch, did a video pitch. It was really good. I was like, okay, I want to take the meeting. And then I was just kind of blown away in the meeting, right? And so I'd actually been pitched by another running app. I think they're still going. It's called Cooper the day before. And I was like, they were okay, but I wasn't compelled to do it. And then I met Runner the next day, and I was like, these guys are amazing. I was just blown away by the founder. I literally went out and bought running shoes like that evening, never not having run for like 25 years or something insane. And so then you get that level of passion. You're like, okay, there's something going on here. At least that tells you these are great founders, right? Because I was inspired to go and do that.
I
And
think that
then
says a lot, right? Like,
yeah,
if you go out and buy a pair of shoes and you haven't run in a considerable period of time, based off the just meeting the person, you've met a generational founder.
yeah, 100%. And then they're like, the business was growing insanely fast, right? The business was growing insanely fast. The unit economics were good. And the market size was big enough to generate like a venture scale outcome. And actually, that was pretty easy to figure out. It's very easy to bottom up. How many people are there out there? Like, how many race people like enter races? What portion do you think might do this? Running culture is pretty much the same across the entirety of the Western world. So
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not if they can sell in one place, they can probably sell in another place.
Oh,
So
hold on
it's
a
like,
minute. Slow the roll a little bit. It's across just the Western world. It's the same. Is it not for the East or the
well,
Middle Asia?
I think it is. I think it is, but like that's not something I've got knowledge of,
Right.
right? And so I was like, is just the Western world enough for that? And I was like, it is. That's big enough for a venture scale outcome. I could figure out the market's bigger, but
Mm-hmm.
like actually, I already know it's big enough for me to go make for me to be interested in this. And so you've got like fantastic founders, pretty easy to understand business model, great unit economics, a large enough market. Actually, if all those things sit there, early evidence of product market fit. There were other bits and pieces as well. They already had like a significant minority of customers in the US without really doing any marketing there. I love the fact they've done like an MVP of like they just sent you a weekly PDF, right? Are people going to buy that? And people bought that. They're like, okay, let's go build on that, right? And they actually did a proper MVP. You very rarely see a proper one. And I was like, okay, this is good.
I love it. Tell me about how big that check size was. Did you just want to enter in as much as you could probably could, or was it like, oh, there's a bit of
So
hesitation?
no, there was no hesitation. So I had a standard check size, right? And I invested in my standard check size. And then something like crazy, also, so one of the standard check size committed literally 2 days later, right? So the fastest I've ever done a commitment was just so obvious
We
that
like VCs that move at speed, Mark. I'm very happy.
yeah, you move fast when you can. Sometimes you do need to do more, right, to get there. But like you move as fast as you can. And it's like practically, if I spend any more time digging into this, is it going to make any difference to the decision? And the other thing is like I want to show them I can move fast, right? So that I could tell the round was going to be oversubscribed. I want to give myself the best chance of getting it. The round was oversubscribed. They took three founder references, including the original introduction, and happily, certainly given everything that's happened, happily, I got into the round, and I know a chunk of people that didn't get into the round, and yeah. So, or passed actually, because people do pass on these things. And so, yeah, then I think it was like they were trying to raise like an additional. They'd held back some of the round for like another specific like type that would be helpful to them, which wasn't me, right? I did not fit that, but I think they got to a certain point. I'm getting the monthly updates, and I think since I'd committed, their revenue had like tripled again, and I was like, they're trying to raise more at the same valuation. I'm like, I just need to see if there's a chance to go and do more of this, and so I've checked the dates. Like this, I didn't realize the date until afterwards, right? Because this was just so playing on my mind. On Christmas morning, I sent them an email saying, I know I'm not the investor you're looking for these additional things, but if you want another ticket from me, from like someone who's going to be like super supportive, make your life easy, and be there for you when you need me and let you get on with it when you don't, I'm there. And they came back for me, and I got in, and I got to write like double my normal ticket, which I will always be grateful for. They could have brought in another new investor, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, and particularly given actually, I'll always be grateful for that, even without the outcome, right? They don't have to do that. It was oversubscribed, the first bit, the second bit, and so yeah, very grateful to the founders. And even if it hadn't been the right outcome, the fact that I got picked, I would always be grateful for.
I love that. It's like it feels like you are genuinely happy that like one, they've succeeded, but two, that you were able to be a part of writing that check in and just like being their saving grace in a moment where they wanted to raise an extra bit of capital. It almost feels like Mark's Christmas present to himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, it turned out to be, yes. But like, saving grace isn't fair, right? They could have raised that money from other people if they wanted to.
Why
It
did they
wasn't
pick
hard.
you? Why did they take it from you? Do you ever figure that out?
So yes and no. So one of the founders gave me a reference saying Mark said he would, when we took references from like Mark's founders, they said he would do X, Y, Z, and that's exactly what he did. And so that's nice to hear that actually it was because the nice things that those founders said about me, and even though those were probably the founders that I chose for them, because you know how it is, and when everyone gives you a reference, same thing in a job, right? You pick the people that are gonna say nice things about you. So when that founder goes, oh, actually, despite the fact Mark picks the people that he thinks are most likely to say nice things about him, they're like, oh yeah, all those things were true. That's a nice thing to hear. So
I love it. And then obviously there's YASO in the portfolio as well as an early check.
mm-hmm.
What was the bet there?
The bet there is on the founders, on there being no other way to solve a real problem, and on an insanely big market size. So for those that don't know, YASO helps Western brands to sell in China via social commerce. There's all sorts of logistical and cultural logistical problems and cultural differences and language differences that just make that really hard. The classic routine is via Tmall. Like pretty much every single brand that's basically tried, failed. It probably cost them $2-3 million with a very, very low success rate. So I was able to go, okay, can I validate that's real? I actually did a client call for them. It's a pre-client call. So actually, you remember this first round was a 2 million pre-seed, and they hadn't built anything yet, right? And so when you're doing a client call, you're not.
Is that a bit wary for you, or is that just like, okay, no, they've got conviction in what they're building?
Is it wary for me? No. So like, obviously, if you've built something, it's better than if you haven't built anything,
Agreed.
right? But like if everything else is better than the other stuff that you're seeing, then that will balance that out, right? Because this is venture. I often say this is a ranking game, right? If you're doing 5 things a year, you're trying to go, what do I think those best 5 things are? So if that's behind on, other people have built stuff, it's got to be ahead on the other things. So does it make me wary? No. Would I rather they built something? Yes, but it's like a balance of all the pieces in the jigsaw. So I think I was able to do that validation via someone who was a prospective client who was able to validate that this is that there is no other good way to do this. We would bite their arm off if they can do what they actually say they will. And the market size, so like social commerce in China is bigger than it is in the US and growing fast, right? It's just such a big piece because they've had a different sort of evolutionary path in their commerce journey, right? That it's happened very differently. And so it's a bet on the founders being good, that you've sort of validated as much as you can that it's a real problem, and then it's like, well, can they build it? Right. And you never quite know. You never 100% know, of course, on anything, Runner or YASO or whatever it is. But it's like this market size is so insanely big that, there's not just a venture scale outcome. There's a, sort of generational outcome if everything went perfectly. Right. And those are like amazing opportunities when they come up, and they don't come up very often.
I love it. Look, I want to ask, and apologies for being so direct on this one, right? Like, what is the value add of Marc and Unbundled?
What's the value add? So that's a good question. So the thing that I always used to say to founders um, is I can be anything from, a frictionless investor to your first call, and I'm happy to be anywhere on that sliding scale. And it was surprising how many, which is like not actually offering any value add at all, but it was insane the number of founders whose eyes
Feels
just
like the optionality of value add is what you're buying there.
The founder's eyes would literally light up. Oh my God, he's just going to let us get on with it if we want to get on for us. He's there for us when we need them, rather than like, I am going to be like involved in every single bit of your thing, which I think, is the thing that founders don't want to say out loud, is like, we do not want someone who is trying to get involved in every single decision in our business. We want someone who's backing us. And if we want to call him all the time, he's there. But if we want to get on with it, that's also fine. So that's what you say. I think now there is more, because I am targeting, going forwards, I'm targeting, sort of European founders that want to win in that US market, because it's typically 10 to 20 times the size of domestic European markets. And there is some specific value add now, which is like, I've built a network of US VCs that know I'm only investing in people that will target that US market. I understand what those people are looking for, so I can both make the introductions and actually can help you frame yourself in the right way that gives you the best chance of raising investment from them.
So it's actually just the bridge it's become the bridge to the US that's the value add for Unbundled.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. On top of like, I'd like to think I'm like smart and helpful and a nice person to talk to, but like I would imagine everybody says those things. So,
can I ask,
yeah.
what's the weirdest founder call you've got? Like, what if they called you up and been like, Marc, I need to do this, or Marc, I need this, can you help?
The weirdest one, I don't know what the weirdest one is, but occasionally you get like co-founder issues, right? And that people will call you about that, and obviously you're like, you don't say, you can't like repeat any of those things. And actually, I've not led deals. I think it's much easier to have that conversation with this person that isn't the lead. So no offense to like the leads if they didn't get that call, that may not actually be their fault. And then just people like, I've got we've got a pivot coming up. I've got the all company tomorrow. I'm like really nervous about it, and it's just kind of like just the sort of, it's almost a reassurance. And again, like, how shall I frame this conversation, right? Going into it. So I'm sure there are other things, but those are the ones that immediately come to mind.
With the thesis Unbundled, right? It's obviously European-based founders targeting the US market. Why the US? Because it's 20 to 10 to 20x for SaaS and early stage comfort, right? Why is that become the thesis?
So I think there was it was evolutionary, right? It was, first off, actually, this came from the guys at Runna, where they were like, oh, this market's 10 to 20 times the size of the UK market. And I was like, is it? Like GDP is like 7 or 8 or something like that, which seemed like, and then it was like, oh, in SaaS, both in like B2C and in B2B, the spends are just way bigger in SaaS, and people, in B2C, people spend more of their disposable income. In B2B, companies spend more of their revenue on SaaS products and are more likely to engage. And so it started with that. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then I was like, well, okay, this is good if you are targeting it, right? Like if you're in the UK, let's say I want to have something that has minimum 100x outcome. If they're just in the UK, you've instantly multiplied that by 10 or 20, right? So the thing that might only be a 10x if they only stayed in the UK is 100 to 200x, right? If you're in the US. And so it's just way easier to hit those venture scale outcomes. And also just like the biggest possible outcomes, right? Venture is about the outliers, right? And you need those out, every single one, to have the chance of being an outlier. And that's just much more easily achievable. Then there's a second order thing. Then I've built a network. And then there's a second order piece, which I think wasn't the primary thing, but maybe just as important as the first, which is founders that want to hit that US market are typically both more ambitious and are more likely to have a I will do what it takes attitude. And both of those things, I think, are critical to maximize your chance of those outlier outcomes.
Do you feel like you would have been a founder that did that?
I don't know. Like, I'd like to think so, but like, yeah, I don't think you know until you're in it, right? Is the reality. So that's a good question.
Yeah, I know. Wait, I know it's a good question. I asked them.
Yeah, no. So the thing, yeah, don't know.
Don't know. Don't
Short
know yet.
answer.
There's still a bit of time. Maybe you get the itch to build.
Yeah. Well, I'm building, but I'm building a venture business rather than building a thing. But it's still a founder journey. So,
explain to me the network building playbook that you've sort of built out and are continuing to refine. Are there strategic locations in the US where you've built relationships with investors, or is it very much just New York, San Fran? That's it. Like, we get you into one of those, and you're golden.
So I think those are the two main places, right?
Yep.
It typically is San Francisco. If you're going to pick one, just go to the Bay Area. If you're going to pick a second one, go to New York. I think, as we spoke before, I did go to Seattle and Austin earlier in the year.
What are you seeing there?
So I like, but obviously very different places culturally, but like also both lovely places. What I saw there was that most of the local VCs are, firstly, there are just far fewer of them, right? Even though they are good centers, there are far fewer of them. And the majority of them want to invest in people that are low. They have like a regional remit. Not all of them, but they have a regional remit. So yeah, so the Seattle ones want to invest in businesses in like the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And Austin want to be in the sort of Texas or greater Texas.
Is there a reason for that
region? It's just the remit that they got when they went and raised their funds, because I think the question their investors will ask them a lot of the time is like, what's your edge if you're investing in a San Francisco startup when there are like thousands of VCs just in San Francisco, right? Their investors are going to be asking them that. And if they don't have a good answer to that question, at some point, the ones that raise are like, oh, no, we invest here because that's where we have an edge, right? And so most of them, not all of them, look like that. And what that means is that network is only useful if I have founders that want to move out there and move a team out either to Austin and Seattle. So the reality is, I like those places. I'm sure I will go back, but I will spend the majority of my time in San Francisco and in New York. And I think that the other question was playbook. And the reality is, why do people want to meet you? Two things. One thing, and this just applies across the board, right? And back to that, we'll do what it takes is hustle. You need some hustle, right? You got to go and like get meetings from people that are very busy and go, why the hell should they take a meeting with you? So the other thing you need is just like, what's the tight reason why they would meet you?
Do you find that as an investor that you've got to hustle to get these meetings in with your American partners, American counterparts?
Yes and no. So like just people just are busy. So even, if I come from like a much bigger firm, it's a bit easier to get those meetings. But like even then, you want people to take you seriously when you get those meetings. So when I did that first trip, the thing I was told was like, why don't people more do this more? A lot of the people, even for the big firms, they turn up from 2 to 4 days and we never see them again. So we're kind of humoring them. We're not sure quite how serious they are about the area. My first trip was 3.5 weeks. My second trip was 5 weeks. Just the fact I was prepared to spend that much time showed them that I was taking it seriously.
What do you do in those 3 to 5 weeks? Like, what do you do in those 5 weeks? Is it just continuous repetition of FaceTime? Of like, let's get to know each other.
You're trying to get as much FaceTime as possible. And when you don't have FaceTime, you're trying to get more meetings, and you're just, BAU. There's always shit to do. That, like the normal stuff that you do. Apologies for language. The normal stuff that you do doesn't go away just because you're in San Francisco or New York, right?
The world doesn't stop.
No, you still have to do all the normal stuff, right? And so, yeah, as much face-to-face time as you can, keep hustling for those meetings. The other thing I say when you said playbook is they need to know why they should meet you, right? You need that tight reason why they should meet you. And actually, that's the thing that ties together nicely now, which is like, I'm only investing in founders going forwards that want to come out to the US, right? That want to win that market. And actually, US funds, that's all they want to meet. They're not interested in meeting anyone else. So what I'm effectively telling them is like, the only people that I'll ever show you are people that are going to fit that remit. You never have to worry about that. Plus, that have that ambition and will do what it takes attitude, which is kind of anti the stereotype of both sort of European VCs and founders, however fair or unfair that is.
Interesting. I want to switch gears slightly, right? Obviously, you know, not by trade, but you dabble in comedy, and we've spoken off camera about this and how, you know, there's a lot of overlap between what makes a great founder and what makes a great comic. Can you sort of explain some of that storytelling, that understanding, you know, how to read an audience and then deliver to that audience? Do you see that as you're practicing it, and then see that in great founders that you invest in?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's storytelling, there's presence, there's like showing confidence, and framing of messaging, all those things. So like the thing in stand-up is that the way that a stand-up walks into the room, takes the mic out the stand, puts the stand behind them, comes back and does it, is like you show a lot of confidence, and you can really, it may not be obvious to the person watching, but it is subconsciously, even if it's not consciously, that they've generated confidence. And it's no different to you go sit in a room with an investor, and how you look and how you sound and how you present yourself. And again, when you're speaking, the subtleties of messaging and persona, and all those bits and pieces are very, very similar when you're doing stand-up to when you're like, let's say, presenting to a VC. And they transfer back into emails or voice notes, or not just the physical things. The underlying principles are exactly the same.
I particularly, out of all of the comic mechanics or stand-up mechanics of comedy, my favorite is the callback, like by far. And it's because it just rounds out the story. It's like, oh my God, this is why we went on this little journey to get to this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's deeply important when you're pitching today, or just pitching in general, and just telling the story of what I do on ventures, what you do at Unbundled, what the founders you invest in do as well. Like, I'm sure the callback on Runna was just like insane.
Yeah, like it's been an amazing outcome. It's a great outcome for the founders and for all the investors. It happened insanely fast, as well. There's a running pun in there somewhere.
I think everything with Runna was just quick. It was like, how do we be as fast as possible to exit?
And it's super interesting. And I have another.
Can I ask? Did they call you up when they said they were going to exit to Strava and be like, is this the right thing, or was it just it made sense? Like, I can see in hindsight that it's the perfect blend. Obviously,
it's a great match for what they're doing. And if you were to look, you never know what a path will be. But if you were to pick an acquirer on day one, it's probably the one. And you should never actually be doing that. But like, if you were gonna pick one, that was the obvious.
In my head, there was two, right? It was Apple Health or it was Strava. It was one of those two.
Yeah. And so definitely it was one of those two. And like a super random story just to round that out is that when they were going to call me and tell me, hey, this is going to happen, I was out in New York earlier in the year, and we happened to be staying at the same hotel. I happened to be staying by chance at the same hotel as they had a team of like 11 or 12 of them out there. And I saw one of the other people in a Runner jumper the next day or the day after. We went for like a kind of walking meeting, and then we chatted through everything. Super random. Serendipity is a wonderful thing sometimes.
It truly is. Look, before we let you go and crack on with investing in some of the best SaaS companies that want to bridge over to the US, I've got to ask this one question.
Okay.
What is a generational company that you're not invested in?
A generational company that I'm not invested. I mean, I think the obvious one is OpenAI, right? And it's let
me caveat that slightly. Under $250 million.
Under $250 million now. Honestly, nothing immediately comes to mind. They're out there, but nothing immediately comes to mind. I want to say something just for the sake of it. So, but there are amazing businesses and amazing founders out there.
Have you got your eyes on any potential angel checks that you can talk about?
None that I can talk about right now.
Does that mean that they're coming up soon?
Who knows? We will see. Watch this space.
Love it. Marc, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'll speak to you soon.
Likewise, Viraj. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Pleasure's all mine.